chase. That's the shit that glorify. I don't even try hard. This gangsta shit immortalized. No records of a trace. When your crime is organized, no man is over me. I'm highest in the morning time. Low key in the birds when I cross the state borderline. Spin your block a horrified. Fuck you, bitch, you mortified. I'm standing where you draw the line, nigga. Hold the line. My nutsack, I'm grabbing mine. Both of mine, quit holding mine. You gon' get this work and some overtime. You know the vibe. Little nigga, you know it's me. I don't need them to notice me. When conflict get crucial, I can't help but do them bogusly. Smoke you like a stogie, beat you like you stole from me. Niggas out of body, put you back where you supposed to be. I shoot at you waking in the moment, niggas toast for you. My niggas do the most for me. That's what they supposed to do. I want all the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think bad enough and test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't got for nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's bustin'. You know how I'm coming, nigga, came with me. You know what's going, stop playing with me. I want all the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think bad enough to test. And you know how I'm coming, I ain't got for nothing. You know when I pull up on your block, it's bustin'. You know how I'm coming, nigga, came with me. Gang, you know what's going, stop playing. Real gangsters move critically when that shit get critical. No peace amongst enemies, no pity for the pitiful. Real nigga down to the bones and the minerals. Stick to the G code, I never told another soul. True to the literature, now salute the general. Kill you on your birthday, dance not on your funeral. It ain't about the clout chase, I'm a man of principle. Niggas out of body, now they body isn't critical. Cradle to the casket, the life we live is typical. God body, cause I will depart you from your physical. Niggas living fantasies, act like they was the only one. Don't talk to me about these streets. Fuck you think you know me from. Just cause you related to them gangsters, I don't make you one. I ain't got no bloodline in these streets, but I can spill me some. I ain't got no mercy for this bitch, and she outside with us. They on demon time, we bring them hell and the fire with us. All the smoke, nigga, cut the shit you think bad enough.
Hey, what's up? What's up? Shalom, shalom. What's good? What's good? Right? I know y'all see the title. We are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? So, yeah, we you know, of course, all praises to the Most High, and we do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, right? So yeah, you know, we're gonna get into this thing, right? Because our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, you know, because like how Doughboy said, either they don't know, don't show, or just don't give a damn. And I would go for the latter. A lot of our people just don't give a damn. You know, a lot of our people are comfortable living a lie. You know, don't care, you know, to know the truth. You know, long as if the truth don't bother them, then they not gonna bother the truth. You know, that's how a lot of our people are in this thing, right? Just comfortable, just you know, if it, you know, whatever's comfortable, that's where they at with it, right? So yeah, we're gonna get into all that. But before we get into the whole lesson, there's a few little things I wanted to share with y'all. Couple little inserts, because you know, of course, we're still keeping our eyes open on this countdown to World War III, on the road to Armageddon. You know, we still got our eyes open. You know, watching the develop, you know, things that's developing in that, right? So yeah, go to these news articles real quick before we get into the lesson of the day. Says Russia rejects Trump's ultimatum on Ukraine, prompting potential U.S. sanctions and military assistance to Ukraine. Iran resumed nuclear activities and support for militant groups defying recent ceasefire agreements, right? You know, it's still ramping up. Like we said, this stuff is not going to go away, right? You know, like we was talking about yesterday, it's like labor pains, birth pains, right? You know, stuff will heat up for a minute, then it will calm down, then it will heat back up again, but then every time it heats up, it gets hotter and hotter until it finally, you know, explode into what we would call World War III, right? So, says U.S. consider future strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities while Iran rebuilds with China's support. Israel remained poised to attack against Iran despite U.S. brokered ceasefire limiting their actions. Putin and Iran defiance creates a dual crisis for Trump administration with China observing from the sidelines, right? So, like I said, the BRIC Squad is doing what the BRIC Squad do. They stand united, right? And like I said, it's only going to explode. It's only going to get worse because we've been covering this for about at least 3 years, right? And every time we talk about it, we see how the escalation just keep going, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It went from, oh, well, this is just going to be a 2-week war, maybe 3-week war, until we're like 3 years in now, right? So, you know, that's what we're dealing with. And it says Trump warns Medvedev to watch his words, escalating tensions between former presidents. So Trump like, dude, watch your mouth over there. You're talking too spicy over there, little Russian dude. So, because Russia, like, they looking at it like, you know, you giving us ultimatums and telling us what to do. Like, we ain't got weapons just like you. Like, we ain't got more. Matter of fact, we got more bombs than you. Matter of fact, America. So you talking to us like, you know, like you can do that to us. So Medvedev reminds Trump of Russia's dead hand nuclear strike capability. What's it called? Dead hand nuclear strike capability in response to criticism. So, and that's what type of people we dealing with, right? When we call these people the devil that the Bible speaks of, when we say that these people are the most wickedest people that ever walked the face of the earth that God created, this is why. It says Medvedev reminds Trump of the Russian dead hand nuclear strike capability in response to their criticism, right? And what is that? That is a system that they got in place if any of their Russian leaderships should die, that their nuclear bombs will launch automatically, right? And destroy everything that is going to destroy, right? That's called suicide, right? That's called murder. If this was a criminal investigation, that would be a murder-suicide, right? But that's the type of ideology of these people that we're dealing with. I don't care if they're Russian, American, whatever they call themselves these days. This is their thought process. If I don't win, I'm going to blow everything up. And the people that we have to follow. This is why God have to come and destroy this place and erase these people off the planet, because the way that how they behave. Who thinks like that? Who thinks if I lose, I'm going to take all 8 billion people with me? Only they will come up with a devise a plan like that. And America has something similar to that as well. These are the people we're dealing with. So when we call these people evil, we call these people devils, you have to ask yourself a question. Are we lying? I mean, is there truth to that? Because they have something called a nuclear weapon that is way stronger than the one they used in the 40s. And we talk about this all the time. The nuclear weapons they have now can literally destroy countries. What they dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, that destroyed a city, right? That messed up their city. We're talking about stuff that can take out the whole New York tri-state. The whole east coast of America will be gone if they push that button, right? We're talking about stuff that can knock out the whole west coast of America if they hit that button, right? This is a whole new different everything. And they got systems set up to where if something happened, this stuff automatically launches and blow everything up. This is what we're dealing with. And these are the people we want to try to fight for and be equal with and say, oh, well, you know, these people are evil, okay? If I have somebody walk in a building with dynamite strapped to their chest and say, if I don't get what I want, I'm going to blow this whole building up. Don't we call them terrorists? Right? Don't people call those people terrorists? What is this? Right? And it says, Medvedev reminds Trump Russia's dead-hand nuclear strike capabilities in response to criticism. Trump threatens Russia with tariffs if no Ukraine ceasefire is reached within 10 days. Trump dismissed India and Russia's oil trade, um, criticizing both countries' economies, and trade practices. Medvedev urges and emerges as a outspoken anti-Western voice in the Kremlin circle since Ukraine invasion. So it says Trump pushes for to end Russia-Ukraine war, threats sanctions if peace deal not reached within 50 days. Trump proposed 25% tariff on India for purchasing Russia military equipment and gas. Trump dismisses India-Russia relations, citing high Indian tariff and minimum U.S.-Russia trades. So we were talking about this. This is interesting that all these players are coming into play. When we were speaking about the BRICS the other day, talking about Brazil, Russia, India, China, right? And just so happened, these are the characters that these main characters that's coming up into the forefront that America is having beef with, right? And so we got to understand how true the Bible is, right? And these prophecies don't lie. We see it playing out, when we look on the news, right? Medvedev responds calling Trump ultimatums a threat and a step towards war with the U.S., right? And that's exactly what's going to happen. War is coming with the U.S., right? And it says China rapidly expands nuclear arsenal to deter U.S. and allies aiming for a strategic advantage without war. Beijing employs nuclear psychological warfare to influence U.S. allies like the Philippines, Japan, and South Korea. China claims adherence to self-defense nuclear strategy, minimum force levels, and no first use policy. China nuclear warheads expected to surpass 1,000 by 2030, still behind U.S. and Russia. U.S. allies may respond with conventional armament to counter China's nuclear modernization, right? So, like I said, people are gearing up for war. Like it says, the sound of battle is in the air, right? Like it says in Jeremiah. Putin believes time on his side. Putin believes time is on his side. Continue the war despite heavy losses and economic consequences. Trump threatens sanctions but lacks leverage to alter Putin or Zelensky's course in Ukraine. Because, like it says that they were not, let's get that real quick. I don't want to paraphrase it. It's really, really quick. Let's see, we'll find it. So Obadiah real quick. Let's go to Obadiah 1 and 7. Alright, go to Obadiah. Hold on. Here we go. So it says, all the men, this is Obadiah 1 and 7. So all the men that of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat their bread have laid a wound under thee. There is no understanding in them. Meaning, it's nothing that you're going to be able to do to deter these people from attacking America. Because once their mind is made up, once God put that spirit on them, they're going to attack. Right? And that's what's going to happen. Then it says, Russia has suffered significant casualties, economic strain, and international isolation due to ongoing conflict. Ukraine faces international political challenges and remains unwilling to offer concessions to Russia, which they should, because you are all Russian at the end of the day. Can't we all just get along, right? And it says Putin confidence may be another strategic miscalculation following the invasion initial misjudgment, right? So, that's what's going on that side of the world. People acting crazy, right? And, we just got to be wise in this thing and understand prophecy is still working its way through. Everything is moving according to plan. And the Most High is in control, right? We're going to go to Micah real quick. Let's go to Micah 4 and go to Micah 4 and 6, right? Micah 4 and 6. Hold on, let me get it over here too real quick. Okay. So Micah 4 and 6 says, no, just start at Micah 4 and 5. It says, hold on. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Not that one. Hold on. Slovakia. Hold on. Let's go to, it's a Hosea, my bad, Hosea. I don't know why I said Micah. Hosea 4 and 6. Gotta bear with me. Gotta get my... Micah 4 and 6. Hold on, so like you. Okay. Alright, Hosea 4 and 6. Right? I don't know where I got other stuff from. So Hosea 4 and 6. Because again, our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, right? Because a lot of times we don't seek the information. A lot of times, we just comfortable in our, immediate circle and don't want to seek, the information. It says, Hosea, I don't know why I keep saying Micah, Hosea 4 and 6. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou have rejected knowledge. And that's what a lot of our people do. We reject knowledge. You try to talk to, somebody, give them a little information, and they reject the knowledge. Instead of just understanding, okay, there's things out here in this world that I know, and there's things in this world that I don't know, right? And so I can't know everything. So it's a possibility that the things that I don't know, somebody else might know those things, and I could probably learn from them. But we don't think like that, because it says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because they has rejected knowledge. And that's what we do. We reject knowledge. Like I like to say, we have that attitude, ain't no nigga can tell me what to do, right? Who does nigga think he talking to, right? Right? We have that type of attitude. We, think that can't nobody correct us, right? We have a problem with being corrected. We hate being wrong, right? Nobody likes to be wrong. The thing is, if you're wrong, being wrong doesn't make you a bad person. But for some reason, some people think if you're wrong, that equates to you being a bad person. So you can never admit that you're wrong, because then if you're wrong, then you're essentially saying you're a bad person. No, you're not, right? It's called being a responsible adult and understanding when you're wrong and when you're not wrong, right? And it says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou have rejected knowledge. And our people reject the wisdom of this book constantly, right? Try to, you break it down to them, you try to, get them to understand, and they reject it, right? Because our people just want to be foolish, and it's more comfortable. Not knowing stuff is more comfortable than knowing stuff, because when you know stuff, you have a sense of responsibility to act. But if you can be comfortable in the fact of not knowing, then you're not required to do anything, because people will be like, well, we're not going to give them too much responsibility because they don't know, right? So, but we can't be like that. It says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge, right? So when we reject this knowledge, right? Because you got to understand, like, there's going to come a day when we're going to get judged for, like, it says in Revelation, we're going to get judged according to everything that is written in this book, right? So it says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee. So the fact that we're rejecting the knowledge of God, right? The fact that we're rejecting this wisdom of God for foolishness and for other religions and other ideologies, he said, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. And that's the thing, because we have forgotten the laws of our God. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was telling them how wicked the Christian church is. And, they want to, talk about, God's laws. But the point is, they say, well, their idea with most people that go to church is, sin is anything that's going against God. Well, no, sin is very specific, and it's telling you exactly what sin is in the Bible. It's just that we don't read it. And even our dear brother Paul tells us, when there's no law, there's no sin. Meaning, if there's no law for that, then that's not a sin, because it's not a law that tells you that you can do it or don't do it. So not everything that we may think is bad is a sin, right? The Bible will tell you exactly what a sin is and what a sin is not, right? So we don't have to guesstimate on what a sin is. A sin is a breaking of God's law, right? So that's what it is. But tell us here, because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, and thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. And that's what they teach us in these Christian churches, to forget the laws of thy God. That's why majority of us don't know the laws of God. That's why I like what we do here at the Covenant of Zealots. We go through the law and we read the law, one by one, and ask ourselves a question. Should we do this? And then the answer is resoundingly yes. Because when we look at these laws that's in the book, they are very applicable to how we should live, right? So for anybody to say that we should not keep the laws of God, that let me know you never read the laws of God and you don't know what they say to say those things. Because the way the church presents the laws of God to us, like, they're so mystifying, they're so unattainable, like they're unfathomable for us to do. So you mean to tell me it's hard for you to stop stealing? You have a stealing problem? Huh? You have a lying problem? You can't stop lying for the death of you, right? Or you have a problem with sleeping with other people, husbands or wives? You can't just stop doing that because it's wrong? You need, clinical help or something to stop doing that stuff? Right? So we act like things are so hard not to do. Or, like, basic law, like we was talking about home, like, it's home improvement within the law. It's laws about if you have how to, renovate your house when, if you got mold or a bad decaying wall or foundation. It tells you how to do those things, how to fix your crib up. So we shouldn't do those? That's stupid. That's because we don't read the law. We don't know what the book says, right? There's laws about if you have sex with your woman, right? You having sex with your husband, your wife. You're supposed to wash the bed sheets afterwards the next day, right? Isn't that sanitary? Keeping the bed clean. Don't people do that? Don't they wash their bed sheets? So you mean to tell me we shouldn't keep the law? That's crazy, right? What other stuff? Okay. Or even having sex with a woman on her menstrual cycle. I mean, is that hard for some of us to not do? I mean, is that like something that we need restraints and something to stop us from having sex with a woman while she's on her period? Common sense would tell you that's nasty. So, I mean, so when we say that we can't keep the laws of God, that let me know whoever says we can't keep the laws of God, they never read them before. Because when you read them, you see that these are everyday things that we should be doing. We should do these things. But an institution called Christianity done told us that we don't have to do them. But when we actually read them, we see that these are things that we should do, right? I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children. So when you're going through heartaches and your whole family is breaking up into turmoil, think about this, right? It says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee. Thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of God. I also will forget thy children. So when you having hard problems with your kids, they in and out of jail, they in trouble, they're doing whatever they doing, they living a life of gang violence, whatever the case may be, right? The Most High had turned his back on you and your children. So when you see that stuff happening, ask yourself, are you this person right here that says are destroyed for a lack of knowledge because they have rejected knowledge? Ask yourself, am I that person that is going around rejecting knowledge? When somebody is coming to me with a good word, I'm like, get out of here, nigga. Nobody want to hear that Black Power Panther stuff, nigga. Get out of here. Are you one of those, right? Ain't nobody want to talk about the Bible right now. Are you one of those, like, we trying to drink, smoke, and chill, and nobody want to hear about God right now? Are you one of those people? Because it says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children. So we have to understand the God that we deal with. We cannot be tricked thinking that, oh, this is an all-loving God. He said, if you reject this information, your understanding of me, I will reject you and your children. Right? That has to mean something to somebody. Right? Let's get Isaiah 58 real quick. Let's get Isaiah 58. And 2. So Isaiah 58 and 2 says, yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their God. They ask of me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching to God, right? And that's what we need to do. We have to take delight in this thing. We have to internalize this thing and understand, understand this is our book. This is about us. He's the God of the Israelites and none else. We got to understand that. So we cannot reject our Father, because if we reject him, he's going to reject us. And that's why a lot of us is going through the hell that we go through, because my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because they have rejected knowledge, and I also will reject thee. That is serious. That is not nothing to play around with. We all the time, I hear people quote, people all the time, we are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. I hear everybody say this, even if they believe in the Bible or not. We are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. But listen to the whole verse. My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee. That is important. That thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing that thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children. That is important. But we don't think about it like that, because we just say, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And we just focus on that part. This thing is important. Isaiah 58 and 2. Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their God. And that's what we should be. We should be a nation that does righteousness and don't forsook and forget the ways of our God. The Chinese people, they know who Buddha is over there. They still practicing their Buddha stuff. The Indian niggas, they still got their Krishna and Shiva, right? Right? The white man, they still got their money, gold, and oil that they worship, right? But we have forgot our God, right? We want to follow every other God in this world except for the God that chose us to be his people, right? Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways. And that's what we do. We delight to know his ways. That's why we study this book. That's why we read these books, to understand the ways of God. Like God said, King David was a man after God's own heart. God called David his friend, right? And we want to be on that same level as David when it comes to God. We want to be friends of the Most High, right? He called Moses, that's his main man. He said he spoke to Moses like face to, like, he didn't speak to Moses in similitudes. He didn't talk to Moses in dreams and visions. He talked to Moses just like how we talking now, like straight up. No, dang, let me go try to figure out what God was trying to tell me. No, he told him exactly what it was, right? We want that. We should seek that type of relationship with the Most High, right? It says, yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their God. They ask of me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching God. So we take delight knowing that we have a Father in heaven that will answer our prayers and take care of us and make sure that we straight, right? So let's get Let's get Jeremiah. Okay, Jeremiah 4:22. So Jeremiah 4:22 says, "For my people is foolish," and that's what we are. We are a foolish group of people. Okay, I see stuff all the time like this foolishness, like foolishness, foolishness, foolishness. I was watching this video, and I be joking a lot about like how we always on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and you always see a video of black people just dancing. I'm like, we is the most bunch of dancing mother lovers around, right? Just dancing all the damn time. That's crazy, right? I mean, of course, we're the best dancers. I get it. The best dancers, best singers, the best everything. But we ain't gotta be doing it all the time. We turning that stuff into like a dang old circus show. To now, the world just look at us as entertainers, right? That's crazy. So this guy is, is on the middle of the street doing whatever the blacks do. So he started dancing, right? And then as he's dancing, a lady is walking up with her dog, and the dog started biting him on the leg. It was the funniest stuff ever. And that's just God trying to tell you, Negro, stop all this damn chucking and jiving and dancing. The Bible says it is not good. I'm paraphrasing. It's not good for a man to go around smiling and cheesing all the damn time. That's not manly to be smiling and always laughing and he and giggling and stuff. Don't do that, okay? That is very effeminate trait for a man to be always smiling, laughing, and doing all that stuff. The Bible says that a man doesn't do that, right? But like I said, we got these TikTok videos where, especially that big swole ass, he looked like he could be a Benjamite. It looked like he could be one of our Jamaican brothers. Big old swole dude with the dreads or whatever that be dancing, to be eating and dancing and pop locking and all that stuff. Like, dude, you too big for all of that. It's funny, I get it. But, nigga, you too big for all of that. The world sees you, okay? We are the holy people on the planet. We should not be acting like that, right? Nothing wrong with dancing and having fun. But when it becomes to a point where they looking at us for entertainment, right? When they see a group of black people outside, they automatically expect that we're going to entertain them, right? So, and that's what the problem is, right? That we became looked at as the entertainment, a tourist attraction. Jeremiah 4:22 says, "My people is foolish. They have not known me. They are Scottish children," meaning we're stupid. This is God calling us stupid and foolish right here. And we are stupid and foolish people because we sit and believe every little thing, right? That's why we fill up these little nasty, filthy, dirty churches every Sunday and giving them all our money, right? Because it says that for my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are Scottish children, meaning stupid. And they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, meaning we're wise to do evil. We're wise to do everything that, you give us a PPP loan, we're going to flip that. We're going to do whatever we need to do to get that. You give us any type of, hustle and bustle, we wise to do evil, right? We quick to establish a criminal enterprise because we understand how to do the evil, but it says, but to do good, they have no knowledge, right? And that's a lot of our people. To do good, we have no knowledge. And what is to do good? To keep the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God, right? We have no knowledge. I'm going to use myself as an example. I was talking to my nephews the other day, a few days ago. I was joking about when I was living the life of crime, living this life of mine, living this life of crime, right? And I used to joke about me being a criminal consultant, right? Meaning like, I was always good at coming up with strategies to improve certain endeavors, right? But they were always criminal stuff, right? That I would come up with. So I'm like, what I'm doing is essentially consulting. I'm like, but just on the criminal side. So all it takes is just that. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, just influence. Because my influence came from criminals, right? So that's why at that time, my thought process was, how can I further and make this criminal thing last? But then the ideas I was coming up with was cool, great, all that stuff, right? But then it says right here, we are wise to do evil, right? So it says, they have no understanding. They're wise to do evil, but to do good, they have no understanding. So all that effort I was spending on being a so-called criminal consultant, I could have been a business consultant, right? Showing business companies how to, maximize their business and grow and all that stuff, right? Same philosophy, right? Same process, but it's just different energy behind it, right? So that's what we got to understand. A lot of stuff that we do and we are talented in, it's just that it's the focus and the energy that's behind it that makes it good or evil, right? And God gave us all talents to do stuff. And the point of God giving us talent to do stuff is to help the nation, help your people, help further and push the agenda of the Most High God. That's why He gave us these abilities and talents to do so, right? So it says, for my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are Scottish children. They have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. And that's where a lot of us happen at. Because, we can, we can be multi, thousandaires in a drug game, right? Controlling, like, I was looking at something like a person that in a drug game that's running a whole block to themselves. They got people working under them that's running packs for them. They essentially can run a company or run a business or be a manager of a store manager of a company and manage assets that way. I'm talking about if you're a successful drug dealer. I'm not one of those talking about those drug dealers that's always losing their stuff and getting locked up. I'm talking about you got your nice little, you know what I'm talking about, right? So the point is the energy that we put behind certain things is what make it good or evil, right? Because we all got talent, but just what are we using it for, right? That's why it says, for my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are Scottish children, meaning they're stupid, and they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge, right? So we have to understand what is good according to the Bible, right? What is good, right? And then we have to do it, right? Let's get hold on. Let's go to Jeremiah over here. So let's get Romans. Let's get Romans 14 and 15 real quick, right? Romans 14 and 15. So Romans 14 and hold on. That's the one I want. Hold on. Yeah. So yeah, we can read it. So it says Mistake. It says, but if thy brother be grieved with thy meat, hold on, that's the one, hold on. All right, no, 15 and 14, here we go. Romans 15 and 14, here we go. It says, and myself also persuade of you, my brethren, that ye also be filled with goodness, filled with all knowledge, able also admonish one another, right? And that's what we got to do. We got to, admonish one another, praise one another. Because a lot of times, in our community, if you give somebody too much props, they call it deriding or they're glazing. But no, we're supposed to exalt one another. We're supposed to lift one another up. If you see somebody doing good, you say, hey, good job. You know what I'm saying? Like, you shout them out, right? And it says, and filled with all knowledge and able to admonish one another, right? So we have to, do good, and when we see each other doing good, promote that behavior. Don't be hating on people because they doing good, and you're just being a hater. No, promote it, because over here it just told us, for my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are Scottish children. They have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. So, and that's what we promote. We promote, the craziness in our community. But instead of, when we see somebody doing good and they making the right moves, we're supposed to promote them. Because it says, and I myself also is persuaded of you, my brethren, that ye also are full of goodness. So Paul is saying, like, look, I am getting hyped up and full of goodness and joy because of you doing good, right? And I see you doing good, that makes me want to do good. That's what Paul is saying, right? And Paul is promoting this brother giving him his props for, what he see him doing. It says, filled with all knowledge and able also to admonish one another. So we have to give props to one another, and don't be looking at it all like, oh, well, this person, they deriding, or they glazing, because they giving somebody props. We're supposed to give each other props and admonish one another, right? What else? And let's see, hold on. So 14 and 19, Romans 14 and 19 says, let us therefore follow after things which make for peace. And that's what we want to do. We want to make peace amongst ourselves, amongst our people, right? And things wherewith one may edify another. So be, being able to help one another, edify one another, pick each other up when one of us is down, right? Be a helping hand to one another. Having a sense of community amongst our people, right? That's what we need, and that's what we should have. Because that lack of knowledge and that lack of understanding of who we are and how we should treat each other is what's been detriment to our community, right? That's good. Let's get let's go to hold on. Let's get let's go to Job 28 real quick. Job 28. So Job 28 says, and 28, unto man he said, behold, fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and depart from evil, and is understanding. Is understanding. So that's why the fear of the Lord is wisdom, and when you're able to see evil or see badness coming, and you have the wisdom to separate yourself from that environment, it says, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and depart from evil, that is understanding. Meaning, you see what's going on, you can see what's about to happen, so you're like, you know what, I see where this is going. Let me exit before things go crazy, right? So that's you using your wisdom and understanding to escape a potential trouble, right? And then your name won't be mixed up in a whole bunch of stuff because you left right before how Denzel said you left before the devil came, right? So you gotta understand that. Then just get Psalms 119. Get the book of Psalms. Let's get Psalms. Right here, Psalms. Look at this. Yeah, Psalms 119. And we're going to start at 54. No, a matter of fact, let's start at the whole everything. Let's start from Psalms 119 and 45, right? Let's start up there. I'm going to read down. So it says, and I will walk at liberty, for I seek thy precepts, right? And the precepts is the laws. You know, the precepts is the laws of God. So it says, I will walk at liberty, for I seek thy precepts. I will speak of thy testimonies also before kings, and I will not be ashamed. So that's what we do. We preach the gospel of the Lord amongst people, and don't be ashamed. We tell them that he is the God of the Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, and none else. Right? We tell them that. We don't be ashamed when we say it. And it says, and I will delight myself in thy commandments, which I love. My hands also will lift up unto thy commandments, which I have loved, and I will meditate in thy statutes. And that's what we should do. Should meditate on his statutes, right? Meditate on the laws and commandments that he wants us to do, right? You know, meditate on them and see how we implement them into our life, right? That's what we should be doing. Then it says, remember the word unto my servant, upon which thou hast caused me to hope. And that's what our hope comes from. Like I say, our hope comes from the Lord, right? And it says, this is my comfort in my affliction, for thy word has quickened in me. And that's what this book does. That's what his law does, is make us alive. That's what the word quickening means, make us alive. So it says, this is my comfort of my affliction, for thy word quickened me. So whenever we're going through stuff, and, you know, this should be a comfort to us. Coming through these scriptures and understanding, you know, these scriptures, that it should be a comfort to us, right? And it says, and thy word has quickened me. The proud have had me greatly in derision, yet I have not declined from thy law. So although people be hating on me and doing all types of stuff to try to distract me and, you know, keep me down, it says, I have not declined from thy law. I remember thy judgments of old, O Lord. I comfort myself And that's what we do. We comfort ourselves in this book. We comfort ourselves in the law. Because we understand that God is a man of his word and he does what he says he's going to do. Horror has taken hold upon me because of the wicked of that forsake thy law, right? So the wicked forsake the God's law, right? And it says, thy statutes have been my song of in my house of my pilgrimage, right? And what this means? It says, and it says, thy statutes have been my song of my pilgrimage, meaning he keeps the laws of God with him, right? When he says it's my song, meaning he internalized it, he lived it, right? Then it says, I have remembered thy name, O Lord, in the night I have kept thy law, right? And that's what we do. We keep the law. He said, I remember thy name, O Lord, in the night, and I have kept thy law. That's what we do. We keep the law, right? Because David was a man after the Most High's heart, a friend of the Lord, and his desire was to keep the law. So if God is calling David his friend, right, you know, who he chose to make the Messiah come from out of his bloodline, right? So David has to be onto something. He got to be doing it the right way. So if David is following the laws of God and God is calling him his friend, and then he's doing it so much that God decided, like, you know what? I'm going to bring the Son of God through your bloodline. I'm going to have Jesus Christ come through your bloodline because you're so good at what you're doing. I'm going to have the Messiah come through your blood, right? So David had to been doing something right, and what he was doing was following the law. And it says, thy statutes have been my song in my house of my pilgrimage. I have remembered thy name, O Lord. In the night I had kept thy law. This I had because I kept thy precepts, right? And that's what David is talking about, keeping the precepts, keeping the law. Let's go to 2nd Ezra real quick, 36. Go to 2nd Ezra 3. Right, 2nd Ezra in chapter 3 and 36. Right? And it say, what it say? When we get there. Boom. So, and it says this. Thou shalt find that Israel by name. Hold on, let's go up, son. Let's start at 34, right? Let's start at 34. Right? It says, weigh thou therefore our wickedness. Now in the balance, in there. So the prophet Ezra is telling God, hey, look, check out all the wickedness of Israel and compare it to all the wickedness of the people in the world, right? That's what he's basically saying. Then it says, weigh thou therefore our wickedness, and now in the balance, and theirs also dwell in the world, and so shall thy name nowhere be found but in Israel. Meaning these other nations, they don't practice God. They don't, understand this book. They don't understand this Bible. They don't know the ins and outs of the Most High God, right? They just make believing and going through the motion, right? They're playing church over there. They're playing like they know what's going on. But this is what he says: weigh thou therefore our wickedness now in the balance. So it said, look at all the wickedness that Israel has done, right? Then it says, and there's also that dwell in the world. So all the wickedness of the heathen, of the other nations, the Gentiles. And so shall thy name nowhere be found but in Israel. Meaning we are the only people that lived up to what God wants us to do. Although we failed, we sometimes, stopped, didn't keep his law all the way. But when it comes to righteousness, we are the most righteous people on the planet. compared to all the rest of these people, right? It says, weigh thou there our wickedness now in the balance, and theirs also that dwell in the world. And so thy name nowhere be found but in Israel. Or when was it that they which dwell upon the earth have not sinned in thy sight? So he's saying, like, when has it that the rest of these nations never sinned or did anything against you, Most High, against the God? And the answer is never. They always did things that was contrary to the Most High God, right? That's why the world operate the way the world operate, because the laws that they push is always against what God said we should do as a people, right? So it says, or when was it that they which dwell upon earth have not sinned in thy sight? And this is the thing, because Christianity would teach that no matter who you are or what's going on in the world, all you have to do is believe in Jesus and you're going to be saved. But this is not what we're reading here, right? Because Ezra is telling us that these nations never followed God. They never believed in this book. They never understood this book, right? These nations are wicked compared to us. So all their million, gazillion religions that they started based off of this book, it started off of no understanding. That's why we started off with, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because in these Christian churches, these Christian institutions, these religious institutions that they got set up, it's a lack of knowledge in those. And it's not for us. This is for us. But that stuff is not for us, right? That's why it's so detriment for us when we get involved in these things. That's why we live a life of hell, because we're involved in these different philosophies and religions. And God is jacking us up as a people, because we are his people and none else. He chose the Israelites to be his people, not the whole gazillion billion people on the planet. The Bible is very clear on that, who he got as his people, and that is the Israelites, right? The Bible is very clear on who he wants to rule this planet, and that is the Israelites. Everybody else get their chance in the sun to do what they do. But at the end of the day, the Black, Hispanic, and Native American people are going to be gods on this earth. That's who's going to be ruling this planet, right? So we got to understand that. And we want to give our blessing to everybody else when he doesn't say that. He says he is the God of Israel and none else. He is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? That's what it says. Anything else outside of that is made up stuff that we done made and put some conjecture into it, right? But that's not what the book say. It says, this is what it says. It says this. Or when was it that they which dwell upon the earth had not sinned in thy sight? Meaning these nations are the most wicked. They are the most abominable people. Right? That's why it got to be some straightening come back on this earth to set everything straight. And it says, or what people have so kept thy commandments? So have these other nations kept their commandments? Not even a so-called guy, Jewish man with the little coaster sitting on top of his head. That bastard don't even keep the law, right? They make up stuff as they go. They try to give the appearance that they keep in it, but no, they don't even keep the law, right? So it says, what people have so kept thy commandments? Thou shalt find. What it say? That thou shalt find. My other little kinky thing there. It says that thou shalt find that Israel by name had kept thy precepts. So who are the only people that had a good record of keeping God's law on this planet? It says Israel by name had kept thy precepts. But not who? but not the heathen. Meaning these other people are not capable of doing what God asked them to do, because number one, he didn't ask them to do it, and number two, the Spirit is not on them to do these things. The Spirit is on us to do these things. He charged us to do these things. That's why they're not capable of keeping God's law. That's why they create a million, gazillion different religions to try to compensate for what God says that we should do, right? So it says, weigh thou thereof our wickedness, and now in the balance, and there is also that dwell in the world. So thy name no more be found in Israel. Or when was it that they which dwell upon the earth have not sinned? They always sin. Look at how the world is made and is. It says, or what people have so kept thy commandments. So what other nation outside of Israel is going around doing what God tells us to do in this book? No one. That's why if they were, we wouldn't have a million religions. But what did Ezra say in Ezra no? Says, but thou shalt find that Israel by name had kept thy precepts, but not the heathen. These people are not capable of following our God, because it's not in them to follow our God, because they have their own gods to follow, and we have our gods to follow, and our God to follow. We can prove this for the newcomers to this. We can prove this real quick. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus 17 and 17. Since I'm already over here. Ecclesiasticus 17 and 17. Right? We got to understand that although God created everybody on the planet, but he only chose to rule over one group of people, and that is called the Israelites, right? So this is Ecclesiasticus 17 and 17, and it says, For in the division of the nations, so God separated all the nations. We know that. You got every country, every person has a country that they belong to, right? For the division of the nations of the whole earth, he set rulers over every people. And that word rulers is talking about gods, right? Deities. But Israel is the Lord's portion. So God created other deities for these other nations to worship. But he said, but Israel is my portion. You know, you're supposed to worship me. So all those different deities that these other nations end up following, they were created to follow. But God wants us to follow him. Right? Let's get another one. Let's get it over here. Let's get it. Let's get it right here. Let's get right here first. Let's get it in Joel. Right here. It says, and ye should know, this is Joel 2 and 7, and ye should know that I am in the midst of Israel, and I am the Lord your God, and none else. Right? So he is our God, and none else. Right? Let's get this over here in Amos. Amos 3 and 2 says, here is, start at 1. Hear this word that the Lord has spoken against you, O children of Israel. He didn't say, O people of the world. You know, he didn't say that. He said, O children of Israel. Against the whole family which I brought up out of Egypt. So we know the Israelites came out of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for your iniquity. So he said, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Think about how many families are on the earth. What they say, about 7-8 billion people, right? But what did he say? You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Like he said over here in Joel, like we just read it, we're going to get read it one more time for the people in the back. It says, and ye should know that I am in the midst of Israel, that I am the Lord your God, and none else. Over here it says, you only have I known of the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. So that's why we tend to go through harsher things collectively as a people versus what other nations go through. Because God punished us because we his kids. Just like if you go to your kid is acting up at the playground, you're gonna discipline your kid. You're not gonna go and discipline the whole damn playground. You're gonna discipline your kid because you told your kid what to do and what not to do. Right? That's how this works. Right? Let's get what else we got? Let's get Psalms 119 real quick. Let's get Isaiah 40 real quick. Isaiah 40 before we get to Psalms. So Isaiah 40 says this. Isaiah 40 and 17 says, all nations before him are nothing. So this is how the Most High feel about these other nations outside of Israel. Because again, we just read that you only out of all the families of the earth have I known. Then we just read that he is the Lord our God and none else. Right? Then it says, all nations before him are as nothing. They are counted to him less than nothing in vanity. So they are less, not only are there nothing, because nothing is zero, right? We understand math that nothing is zero. Then if you take that zero and you go less than that zero, which would be less than nothing, that becomes a negative number. So these nations compared to us are -1, -2, -3. They're in the hole when it comes to the Most High God. They're nothing. And it says, they are counted to him less than nothing in vanity. That's what it says, right? Let's get Psalms 119 before we get up out of here. So Psalms 119 says, Psalms 119, not 119, Psalms 147 and 19 says this. It says, he showed his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He has not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. So he only gave his word and understanding to the Israelites. That's why we're able to break these books down and explain it, because he only gave the knowledge to us, right? He's not dealing with Jake Prince or James Prince, the little Korean dude, or what's the other girl name? The singer, the white lady with got the little stuff on her lips that made her lips look like Angela Jolie. The white pastor woman that got a gold toilet in her bathroom. Forgot her name. He's not dealing with them, right? He's not dealing with Benny Hinn and them people, right? Because it says, he showed his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for their judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord, right? That's what's cracking around here. That's what's going on around here, right? So we have to understand that. And that's what we're dealing with. He has not dealt so with any nation, right? And as for their judgment, they have not known them. So our people is destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And because this institution called Christianity has, taught us the Bible the false way. So we kind of just, we don't, how the churches is set up,
To use this
they're
feature,
giving us
please make sure your
a
app is
sense
running
of,
and can access the internet.
of church, but it's no church going on. It's just Greek mythology, Roman mythology, and Babylonian customs and Egyptology that you're actually learning when you go to church. You're not learning the truth of the Bible. You're really learning paganism, right? That's what Christianity is, paganism, right? That's what you're learning. You're learning a revised Roman mythology, a revised Greek mythology, right? You might as well just start following Zeus, right? Following Zeus, go follow Jupiter and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Go, what's that other Aphrodite? All these people. You might as well go ahead and follow them. Because that's essentially what you're doing when you go to church. You're following paganism. You're not, although they say Jesus 1,000,000 times throughout your church service and say God 1,000,000,000 times, you're following a false religion called Christianity that is centralized in paganism and is based off of Roman mythology, Greek mythology, Egyptology, and Babylonian holidays, right? That's what it's based off of. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can do your own history and see how this grand Christianity came about that we so much follow, right? So, again, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully that was edifying and all that stuff. Our people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because we reject knowledge and we don't, look into the things that we profess to believe in. We follow this thing called, a lot of us grew up Christian or whatever, but we don't look into that religion or the tenets of those things to see what is actually being taught. Do we believe these things that's in this thing? That's, and we don't do that. And you will find that a lot of these so-called religions that people profess to be a part of, they don't believe that stuff. They just saying it because it's something cool to say, right? But this is not a religion. This is a lifestyle. This is a way of life, a culture, right? A way of life of a people called the Israelites, right? So I'm going to say shalom, peace. Hopefully that was edifying. And, hopefully this help us understand that we need to keep the commandments of God because that's what gives us that knowledge, that wisdom, right? Oh, before, let's read that real quick. I meant to get that. There we are. All right, here. So this is Deuteronomy. I'm going to start at 5, right? So Deuteronomy 4 and 5 says, "Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Lord thy God commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whether you go to possess it." Right? Here's the point. Here's the point. "Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding." So these commandments, these laws is our wisdom and understanding, because like we always say, when we keep these laws, God broadens our understanding and our knowledge so we can, be wise in understanding people, like we're about to read. So it says, "Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear of these statutes and say, surely this great nation is wise and understanding people." So when the other nations see us doing these things, they're going to look at us and say, this is a wise and understanding people. Look how great they are. Look how spiritual they are. Look how connected to God they are, right? That's what they're going to say when they look at us doing these things, right? But that's why it says in Hosea, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge," because we're not doing this right here. We're not keeping the commandments, and the nations is not looking at us as this great wise nation, but they will. It says, For what nation is just keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear of all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great who have God so nigh to them as the Lord our God is in all things that we call upon him for? Right? That nation is there so great that have statutes and what nation is so great that they have statutes that they have statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law, which I set before you this day, right? And that's what they're gonna say, and that's what they are saying. That's why American Constitution is based off of the laws of God, right? That's why when we read through the laws, right? And I kind of almost don't like to say it, but it need to be said. Like, a lot of the laws in the American Constitution came from the laws of God. So it's like some of the stuff when we say that we don't have to keep the laws of God, it's like, well, some of the laws that we keep here in America come from the laws of God. So by default, you're kind of keeping the law of God, like some of the law, not all of them, but some of them unknowingly. So that's what I'm saying. And so it's like the laws that God gave us is so cool, so great, so perfect that countries steal them and put them in their own judicial system, their own constitution for their country to run their government, right? Because it says, and what nation is there so great that has statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law, which I set before you this day? So that's why they steal it from us. That's why they steal all of our, commandments and try to implement it and twist it and change it, whatever, right? So that's what we got to understand, that it says, keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all of these statutes and say, surely this is a great nation, is wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great who has God so nigh to them as their Lord God is all things that we call upon for him, right? So that's what they're going to say, right? And that's what these laws do. They make us wise. They keep us, they keep us with wisdom, right? So, again, I'm going to say shalom, peace. Hopefully that was edifying. Hopefully we understand that we are God's chosen people and that we need to come back to our heritage, our culture, and, and study, and study this book. Because a lack of knowledge is the reason why we're destroyed as a people. So, again, I'm going to say shalom, peace. I'm out. Let's go.
Your block is busting. You know how I'm coming if you came with me. You know your block.